Welcome to the Building Doors Podcast, where we're not just pushing for opportunities for women's voices to be heard, we're creating them. I'm Christy Harst, voiceover actor and creator of the Building Doors campaign. Join us as we amplify voices, break barriers, and build doors together. Welcome to the Building Doors Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Harst. And today on Building Doors, we welcome Tiffany Greene. Tiffany is the trailblazing ESPN play-by-play voice who made history as the first Black woman to call a nationally televised college football game. I said what I said. That is amazing. A proud Florida A&M University alumni and a tireless champion for HBCU athletics. Tiffany brings expertise. She brings a big heart and perspective that elevates every game she calls. She's not just calling the game, she's redefining who gets to tell it. Tiffany, welcome to Building Doors.
Man, Christy, look, I need that type of intro everywhere I go. Can we work something out? Can we do this together? All I need
Yes.
is, like the music from the, 90s Bulls.
Yes.
Intros.
That's the perfect one. Yes. And just in full transparency, I met Tiffany at the ESPN W conference in Brooklyn, New York this past year. We sat at a table together and we just kind of started chipping and chapping. And when we were chipping and chapping, just your confidence alone and your kindness and your willingness to actually listen to somebody came through. But then all of a sudden she left. I was like, where'd she go? She's on a panel. And she came out to some banging music. Master! Oh, gosh. And I was like, wow, I was sitting next to a panelist this whole time and I didn't even know it. So I'm so grateful that you came here to share about what it means to be a woman.
Yeah.
In a male-dominated genre, what it takes to get there. And I want to start off with talking about that historic moment. Like you are the first Black woman ever to call a nationally televised college game. Walk us through how that even came to be.
I was calling games for ESPN 3 at the time and was just trying to build myself up into a point where they felt comfortable with me to do linear games. And so I'd done some games in the past, but then they said, okay, we're going to move you from the sideline also, because I had done play-by-play in spots. But sideline is where I really got the introduction to ESPN. So they said, we're going to give you this try. You said you can do it. We've seen you do volleyball. We've seen you do basketball and softball. Do you feel confident that you can do it in football? Absolutely. Yeah, come on, raise the hand. And it wasn't until a friend of mine, Kareem White, who works at the company, said, Tiff, I think you're the first Black woman to do this on a major network, or that just doesn't come around very often. So yeah, loaded pressure, added pressure there. I wanted to perform to my best ability, but I also felt some kind of weight because of the significance that came with me being in that position. I was very comfortable with HBCUs. I'm a graduate, as you mentioned, of Florida A&M University. I've been around the culture and the campuses over time. But to do that in that manner meant so much. So naturally, you're trying to like calm yourself down, right? Like I'm in the city of Montgomery and I hadn't really been there before. So I'm like, okay, like, what am I going to do? I'm walking down the street. I usually rub my ears and kind of like just listen to some music to try to calm me down in the process. But I'm thinking about every word that I'm going to say. I don't think I realized how much that meant. Not only just for me fulfilling a goal of being a broadcaster, something that I had dreamed of since I was 5 years old. This was always my goal, to be a sports broadcaster. But for the young women that I saw and their reactions in games after that of like, oh my gosh, it means so much. Oh my gosh, it's so great to meet you. But what I was most taken aback by, honestly, Christy, were the number of older Black men who I wasn't really sure how they would, take it. It's a boys' club. They were like, oh yeah, you do it, sister. Like, great job. It's so good to, see you up there representing. And I was like, okay, that was an audience that I wasn't necessarily sure that I had checked off on my box.
Right.
But they embraced me, equally. And I think generally speaking, I wanted to go into every game, and that's what I attempt to do every game, of just preparing myself to know as much information as possible. But what I do know is that I didn't play the game of football. Okay, I've loved it from the time that I was a little girl watching Pat Summerall, John Madden. My grandparents gave me a Buccaneers uniform. I would play, throw the ball up and run underneath it in the backyard. But my job is not to tell you the how and why. That's my analyst's job, right? I'm supposed to set up these teams, these players, these programs, the who, what, when, where. And he tells you the how and why. So going into that space, I also try to alleviate some of that pressure by not trying to know everything. Because naturally, that's what you want to do in that space. You want to show that you know everything in the stats. And certainly, I threw all that kind of stuff in there, but I had to remind myself in game, like, sis, like, you've never played this before. So you don't have to know everything. Take that off of your plate and just talk about football. Just talk about football,
Wow.
talk about these players. And that really helped.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very mature thing to realize, right? That it's not my job. That's not my job. And as
Mhm,
women, we wanna do it all, right? We wanna
mhm,
do everything. It's not my job to know that. I'm gonna do what I know best. And
mhm.
so, you mentioned a little bit about what it was like after the reception that you received, right?
Right, right.
But how did that experience or that job, did it elevate? Did you get asked to, do more, play-by-play, like, football? Like, what did it mean for you career-wise?
Well, the following year, then I got a package, right? I got a package of HBCU games and I transitioned
Oh,
into
see?
being one of the voices for
See?
HBCU football along with my partner, Jay Walker. And it was, again, so refreshing because it was like, yo, I've been doing the sideline gig for some time and I've made inroads and contacts and sources and relationships that I've built over time. And I've shown you that I could do it here. You gave me an opportunity because that's what people just need, right? You're always knocking on the
Yes.
door for an opportunity. And I credit Jamel Hill, who at the time was at the company, and she was really close with one of our CPs at Placing. She said, I really think you should give Tiffany a look at play by play. Like, she can do it. So, someone being an advocate for me inside the company,
Mm.
going to bat, and especially at that time, her voice rang loud within the company, so they listened. But that's the beauty of just how the world works, right? I will never tell you that I'm sitting here because of something that I did on my own. Right? It's not me. It's me and so many others who helped me. Oprah had this great quote. It's like, when I'm walking into the room, I'm walking in and my ancestors are walking in with me, because you have to bring that level of confidence. In the process, you can say, hey, let me raise my hand, let me get this opportunity. But it helps all the more when you have someone going to bat for you at the same
Mm.
time. Jamel helped to do that for me, and I think that made a difference. I want to say that my work was solid already, but
Yeah.
just that little extra endorsement, I think, helped to make a difference. And where I think that opportunity came from, ultimately from football, because it's like a really visible position, right? But I felt so invisible in like times past because
Mm.
visible, yes, it's college football. We love and worship it here in America. It is
Yep.
everything. It is our great escape. But at the same time, I felt invisible because at points the crews would make me feel overlooked. Like, you know, they're just getting anybody to do play by play, nowadays. Or, all right, well, oh,
Wow.
yeah, there wasn't always this warm, welcoming feeling, especially when I started out.
And do you think that's because you're a woman or because you're Black?
I think it was because I was a woman.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was doing games primarily in the South. So when I wasn't doing HBCU games, I was just doing games in the South. So I would
Right.
attribute that to being a woman more than anything. I'm not sure if my color played a part in it. I'm sure it maybe did at some point or another. But Robin Roberts always said, when you look at me, I don't want you to see my color and I don't want you to see my gender. I just want you to see the best person that's in front of you to
Mm.
be able to do the job. And so you try to block out that noise as best as possible because it's really easy to get caught up in it. Don't think for a second that I'm not very aware. I'm not I am very aware, and I've been made aware. Um, but I'm trying to just do the very best that I can with the gifts that God has given me. So, um, yeah, fun journey.
So when you're in that situation, because I think
Mhm,
a lot of women find themselves in that situation
mhm,
where they may be working and they find themselves in a group of predominantly men,
mhm.
and they get that vibe of, she doesn't belong here. She only here because she's a woman, or she only here because, she's cute or she's pretty or whatever. How did you handle that mentally, and what did you do to overcome it?
I started out in local news, so I earned my stripes there and kind of those, chops that I had then. I would go into Magic locker rooms or when I was in Orlando, or after press conferences for the Florida Gators when I was covering them. Everybody's going to, a lot of people like to question your validity there or if you really know
Mm.
sports and all that
Okay,
kind of
that
stuff,
part.
right? Yeah. And sometimes you can choose to engage, right? But then then you realize quickly, because I'm an observer, right? I will sit in a room and I believe in killing people with kindness. That's just who I am. But I'll observe people and I'll get a good sense of what I'm working with or who I'm working with in the room and who feels the need to stick their chests out and you let them talk and you let
Mm.
them be who they are, and that's great because they're trying to show how much they know. And I would come in there and occasionally I would engage, but by and large, I just found my angle, right? My angle is not your angle. I come in as a woman. I come in as a Black woman. I come in as a young Black woman. So that means I've got an edge over you because maybe I have a way to relate to them based on their age. I'm probably closer in that.
Mm.
Maybe I've got a way to relate to you because, you know, we like a lot of the same things. Like whatever my angle was, I was trying to find that as best as possible. I was very adamant about my reputation and how I presented myself. So my mom and dad are pretty classic old school folks. I bring that vibe into any situation that I do, that I'm in. And so yeah, I just went and talked to him. Hey, look, I'm believing in you. You got this going on. If I'm speaking a word of encouragement or motivation, or I'm not trying to rip you down as a person, like I want to see the good and the best in people. Yeah, we got bad days because we're human, but my angle was always to uplift, motivate, educate, and just be honest and real. I'm not trying to get at you for anything. I don't want
Mm.
anything from you. I just want to do my job. Help me do my job and help me to showcase you in the best possible light that I can or the most honest way that I can. So I think that time in news, local news, really helped me. So by the time that I was at network level, it was just kind of like, all right, but I'm here. So that means I'm here for a reason. And I know the
Yes.
work that I have put in to get to this point. So you're not going to snatch that from me with your negativity.
Ooh. So you've talked about the role your parents have played a little bit, right?
Hmm, hmm,
In kind of setting that work ethic. You've talked about what happened at your news station days. Let's take it back even further.
hmm,
You are proud Florida A&M University alum, which we've talked about.
hmm.
Uh, of course, it provided a strong foundation, but how did your time there shape your career when you went off into news and the network of people? Because I think as a college graduate myself and as a former college athlete, there are relationships that are formed.
Hmm.
And whether you believe it or not, those relationships are going to definitely add
100.
something after you graduate. You're going to be able to pick up the phone and make calls to people who are in that have grown to other positions. So talk a little bit about the importance of your college years and the networking that goes along with that.
Well, I will say that I had a little bit of a head start when I got to FAMU in the sense of I'm a fourth generation Rattler. So my family is all about the orange and green. Okay. And funny enough, when I got there, I was raising my hand to do literally everything that I could. I was working the newspaper at the FAMUN, the radio station 90.5, FAMU TV 20, um, working in athletics. anything that I could do just to be involved in sports and broadcasting, I was all about. I'll tell you a quick story. It started with Professor Jones, who taught me one of my greatest lessons in life. It was my junior year. I was set to graduate the next year. I'd sent out invitations or at least save the dates a year in advance. TV news. He said, "Don't turn your equipment in on late or you don't, or you won't pass the class." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm working with a solid, A minus, B plus in this class. I don't know what happened with the story. I did not turn the equipment in on time. Professor Jones did not pass me for that class, which meant, and it wasn't offered in the summer. So that meant I had to take it the
No, the next
following fall. And
year.
I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Because I couldn't take advanced TV news if I didn't pass TV news. One of the greatest lessons, don't miss your deadline. That carried over into the workforce. And we talk about lessons learned, don't miss your deadline. Got that. But I also was a part of the National Association of Black Journalists, Society of Professional Journalists. Like, I believe in extending yourself as far and wide as you can to meet people. And I would go to NABJ conferences over the summer. Well, it was my senior year. We went to Howard University for like a job fair. First contact with ESPN, dude by the name of Fred Brown, rest his soul. He was the production assistant. So he brought everybody in on the production side. And I said, well, I got to tell you, Fred, like ESPN, dream job, right? But I want to be on air, not in production. And he was just like, okay, well, you can elect to get your foot in the door, or you could just, keep working and building relationships.
Right.
Well, I decided that was a relationship that was worth maintaining. So we would
Hmm.
keep contact just because I wanted to know more and I wanted him to see some of my work or maybe point me in the direction of others. And I constantly went to those NABJ conferences and I kept building that network, right? And each year they would come back, I would come back, okay, what'd you do this year? Because I tried to stand out and I was a one-man band, right? So at the time there were like 20-pound, 30-pound cameras, not the light
Yeah.
handhelds now. And so they wanted to see, well, what did you do with your story? Because I thought I was a pretty creative storyteller. I'm not the story, but if I'm going to be in the story, I want to creatively segue from one point or thought to the next. So I kind of started to build this reputation of having these self-involved stand-ups that help to illustrate the story. And every year they would be like, "Okay, let me see your work. Where are you?"
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
that was something to look forward to when I met like a Meg Green, who was in the talent office at the time. And then I would go to the mentor breakfasts. Like, Chrissy, I just want you to know this was like a decade in the making plus for me to even get the opportunity to do anything at ESPN. But it started in my senior year at FAMU. And then I just kept building and building and building and building. I believe you till the soil, you'll reap a harvest. So, things are about the process. As a former athlete, it's more about the process than the results of the outcome. And what I kept doing was just strengthening my muscles, right? Strengthening my faith, strengthening, my work ethic, strengthening my ability to tell stories, and strengthening my relationships. All of that paid off over time. It was a nice return on investment, 10, 15 years later. So NABJ, I go to, I'm trying to think, it may have been here in Tampa. Met an executive by the name of Roy Hamilton. At that time, I was already in local news. I was working in Orlando. And he said, "You do play by play?" I said, "Yeah, I do play by." He was like, "How many women do play by play?" It's like, well, this chick
Oh,
does. This chick does.
uh-huh.
Timing, it's all about timing, right? Sometimes it's not it's not a denial, it's just a delay. So you just find, you go through enough no's, you find the right yes. And he said, "Well, let's be in contact." Okay, sure. I showed him my stuff. And he said, "Well, we're starting up Fox Sports One, and we have the Big East package, and I would like you to be the voice for our inaugural Big East package." And that was truly my springboard into network. That was back in 2013 that I got that opportunity, and from there, everything kind of opened up. But it was again years of networking, years of going back. Look at the tape. Okay, you could do this different. I like this, but maybe not that. You're not ready yet. You just try to adjust to what is a very subjective business and make it work. And I made that transition.
It's such an important lesson that people grab from what you just said, which is you're planting seeds, right? And I feel like in today's culture, instant gratification is such a big thing.
Hmm.
And you watch Instagram or TikTok or Facebook and you see these people living this luxurious life, like, oh, look at all my money and my clothes and my jewelry and all that other stuff. And I think there's this image I've seen, and it's like a cartoon image of an iceberg, and you see the top, right? And
Hmm.
that's the glorious part that everyone sees. But what they don't see is like this 30-foot underneath, all this work that it took to get there.
Hmm.
And so what's great about your story is that it took over a decade to get where you are today. It wasn't instant. It wasn't
Hmm.
a fluke by any means. And it took a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And you had to purposely create those packages and go back purposely
Hmm.
every year, and leave your mark on these people's brain because they started looking forward to you, right?
Right.
So it really is about persistence
Hmm.
and this little drop that you just keep putting down. It's not this flood of instant gratification.
No. And two, people talk about, how did you get there? Or when I talk to young people, I say you speak whatever it is that you want into existence, right? That's the first
Ooh,
part. Speak it into existence, write it down and make it plain. So I'm a woman of faith. The Bible tells me, write it down. Okay. Let it know. I charted the course. And in charting the course, I said, this is where I ultimately want to be. I started in Tampa as a part-time production assistant. I was
oh my gosh.
I was running live
Wow.
shots, okay, when I made it to Savannah before that probationary period. I was running other people's live shots and shooting packages for them before I got my
Wow.
one-man band opportunity. And I stayed in Savannah for about 3.5 years, but I was always on the news track. I let them know that I was interested in sports, but I was a general assignment reporter. When I got the opportunity to go to Orlando, again, it was a feature reporter gig. But don't you think I didn't try every angle that I could to tell a sports story about the sports fans and the impact that this sporting event has on this, such that when we started a 24-hour sports network to complement the news network, boom, it was an
You were
it
the
was
first
an
person.
right.
Yeah.
It was an easy transition. But that charting the course took a little bit longer, right? There are going to be detours along the way, but as long as you have a guide and you don't give up, it just reminds you and holds yourself accountable of where you want to be. And then we've talked about the networking, right? You've got to be relentless in building your relationships. So I thought it was always key to be genuine in your outreach to people and
Mhm.
finding points of connectivity, because there is something that we all have in common. No matter where we come from, no matter what we look like, no matter what our backgrounds are, we all have something in common. So find that point that makes you more alike than different and lean into that. And I would hit people up at the beginning of the year, Happy New Year, right? I would check in probably mid year if I was just kind of doing something generic, summer plans, what you got going on, and then boom, hitting holidays again. I would update them. I want to know what you're doing. Is there anything that I can do? Or if I'm in your area, can I reach out? Like, I would just cold email everybody. I would look
Wow,
on the
Tiffany, you're a
websites.
marketer.
No,
You're a
no,
marketer.
I don't know about that. But you would call, at the time, social media wasn't available and it wasn't around.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
yeah,
had to
yeah.
meet people
Yeah.
face to face, and you had to, you know, be use your resources, right? And I would
Mhm.
go on and I would just look at news stations in the areas that I was interested in and be like, hey, can you just tell me about your newsroom culture? Like, give me more about your journey and let me learn about you. And then I would meet them, or come across them later in life. It was really cool. Hey, you remember me? I used to reach out to you. And now,
Uh-huh.
we've grown in the business. So the relentless relationship building, I think, is just as critical, because it's not about who you know, but who knows you.
Let's talk about your faith for a little bit. You've mentioned it. How have you relied on your faith, especially when it's come to moments where you have been challenged because you're a woman? you have had to have those uncomfortable, oh, I'm sitting here working for 2 hours with people who don't think I deserve to be here. How has your faith helped you get through those things?
I'm guided by a verse, Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, do it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not for men. So my glory doesn't come from you all. My glory comes from upstairs. Okay. So he has made the way, he has provided the path, he's given me the skills, and what is for me will be for me.
Ooh, done.
Done. Because
Done.
I mean, like, honey, the amount of days and nights that I have praying for opportunity, because sometimes I'm now in a season of, God grants you what you pray for, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, oh shoot, what do I do with this? Like, it's
I
here.
I asked for this. I
I
asked
asked
for
for
it. Now I
this.
know what I do.
How do I handle this? Like, um,
Yes.
but he heard every prayer along the way, and he was with me every step of the way. So when I was overlooked for opportunities, or someone was given an opportunity and they didn't put in the time or
Okay.
the effort, okay,
Right.
that
Right.
happened quite a bit. Like I was the one driving up and down, putting myself in
Yep.
harm's way, and this dude gets it. He gets the glorious, championship game. Um, but again, we talked about, just the no's, right? Those no's, one will say yes. And when that yes comes, you be ready for it, and you knock it out the park as best as possible. So delay, not denial. Delay, not
I love
denial.
that.
Um,
Yeah,
that
I
is
love
that
it.
has really helped to push me through. And I've got, again, the man upstairs, amazing. But family and village, such a critical part, because they spoke life into me in times where I didn't believe
Mm.
in myself. They held me up and prayed for me and just listened to me and let me cry when, people didn't think, again, I didn't belong. You don't know what you're talking about. This business makes you question yourself constantly.
Oh, God.
And finally, and shoot, now I've learned to get a therapist. I've learned to work through those things as well, and
Yeah.
not be ashamed of that, because
Mm.
you need it, right? And if I'm
Yes.
going out and saying believe in yourself and speak it into existence and you are enough, well, that gets chipped away at too, personally, over time and in
Mhm.
different instances. um you're all the things that have been said about, you know bring more flavor to your
Oh,
calls, kind of the
yeah, 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 yeah.
microaggressions and the, passive
Yeah.
aggressiveness, or again, uh, people thinking you're not good enough for the opportunity, or they just haven't seen anybody be in that role or position. So they're not really comfortable putting you
Right.
there or
Right.
taking that leap of faith. Um, you just try to outwork it and have faith and belief that when it is your time, what is for you, and when it is your time, you know, just take advantage of the moment.
I know that you wanted to keep it to a tight 30, but I have 2 more questions if you don't
Sure.
mind.
I talk a lot,
Okay.
so yeah, I got you.
I'm curious to know, because you have been where you are, you've been working ever since you were in college. You've
Mhm,
been hitting the streets, wanting to be a broadcaster, wanting to do play by play and working your way to there. Looking at the industry today,
mhm.
what do you see in terms of opportunities for women in sports broadcasting? What has changed and what still needs to change? Because let's be honest. Yes, there are more women on the sidelines. There are more women doing what you do in play by play. But there was recently a tweet by a man, a middle aged white man, who screenshotted his TV, and it had 3 women analysts on the field, on the football field after a game, doing
Mhm.
analysis of the game. And his tweet was, no woman is ever going to tell me anything that I don't already know about football. And the last thing I want to do is listen to 3 women tell me about something after a game. And it was viral.
Mhm.
So that just happened this year.
Mhm.
So yeah, sure, we've come, there's more women doing it, but I'm curious to know, from everything that you know, what do you see in terms of opportunities now? What's changed, and where do you see it going, and what still needs to change?
Well, I'll say something to that tweet really quickly. There's an archaic thought process there, and you know what? You may or may not change their mind. So you're not speaking to them, and you're maybe never going to prove yourself to them and your worth or value or your knowledge or whatever. So you just got to X them out. They're in their own bucket, and you can let them stay in their own bucket because nothing is going to satisfy them, right? Unless they perhaps see a woman in a particular place or position. So you're not changing their mind, and that's fine. But there's a whole lot of other people who have an open mind and who are willing to listen to women talk about sports and football in particular. The idea that we need more women in the play-by-play chair. I mean, you mentioned it, Christy, the sideline reporter space is solid, right? I think there are a lot of women. Certainly, we can add more, but I think that there needs to be more play-by-play voices. You know, we get to be the conductors of the broadcast, right? And you get to help to
Wow.
orchestrate this beautiful symphony that you see on TV of sport. So we can be that voice. We can be that voice in that
Yes.
moment, in those critical minutes of the game, the
Yes.
big shot, the winning moment, that we can be that. And we are that.
Yes.
And we've seen examples of that. I think Beth Mowins is one of those great examples of a trailblazer in her own right. I think she is just so strong and steady. Robin Roberts, who helped to open the door, Gail Sierens, who did it at the NFL level. I mean, these are women who got those opportunities and shined in their moments. And Beth continues to shine. So I think there needs to be more women in play by play, but we need more young women who are willing to go into play by play and for all sports, but specifically for football. I mean, I think it's very daunting. So I don't know that people feel as comfortable with it. But again, I'm sitting here telling you, I can tell you coverages and I can break down defenses because
Yeah.
I've been doing it over and over, but that's just watching the game, talking the game. There are a lot of other women who can do that too. Very capable
We
of
need
doing
more.
that. And we need more of it. I think there is
More.
just like not enough. But I also believe that we need to see more women on male sports, right? Because it's sometimes it feels like we're in this awkward in between of if you're a woman, you do women's sports. Now, men can come over to our side all the time, no
Yes.
problem, right? But
Yes.
women
Yes.
crossing over to men's sports, it's like, Jessica Mendoza was given a hard time because she went over to baseball, even though she's an Olympian and has done a great job
Right.
on, our baseball tonight coverage or our baseball coverage. You see Andrea Carter, who is, this youthful exuberance and just this new rush, her and, Chene, they know ball,
Right.
period.
Right. It
So
doesn't matter.
it,
Right.
it doesn't matter they can talk ball. So I think if we can see more women continue to cross over on the men's side of sports, I think people just have to. It takes time and adjustment, and when you've got people who are sharp as a tack, as
Mm.
some of those women that I've just talked about, it helps to kind of break down those walls that are existing now.
And I will say that when more women start to do play by play, as you mentioned, and we see even more women on the sidelines, there is a ripple effect in other industries.
Mhm.
So if the audiences get used to hearing a woman doing play by play in football and basketball and baseball, guess what? It's going to mean more stuff for voice actors. It's going to
Yeah,
mean more stuff for female producers, female
yeah,
copywriters. It's just going to be a ripple effect. And
absolutely.
women's sports is having such a big moment, and that's great.
Right.
But you're right. There's this preconceived notion that women need to voice for women and men need to voice for men. But
Mhm,
men can voice for women,
mhm.
but women can't voice for men.
Right, right. And I want to add to that. What else needs to change, or just maybe increase the number of women who are making decisions? Right.
Now, see, that's what I was. Yes, that's what I
The
was thinking when you talked about the woman who offered your opportunity.
mhm,
That we need to have more women in positions that can say what they said about you. Give
right.
Tiffany a shot.
Right. That makes the world of difference because when you have diversity of thought and diversity of people in the room, it really does help to make a difference. And I know that's not a really popular term to use right now, but bump it. Like, we need to have all different walks of life and backgrounds represented because we can deliver things in different ways that speaks to a large number of people, but it's just presented in a different manner. I'm not going to sound like Mike Breen. I'm not going to sound like Mike Tirico. I'm not going to sound like Kevin Harlan. I'm not going to, like, right? but they're not going to sound like me either. And we both can do a great job at what we do.
Stop trying to sound like a man or work like a man. Work like a woman, because that's going to make you different.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I'm curious. I only have 2 more questions, I swear. This one's quick. Did you wait? I'll position it this way. I'll give it multiple choice. The 2025 Super Bowl. I tracked all of the ads and promos. I wrote down every single spot, if a man voiced it or a woman voiced it, and for what brand. Out of all of the commercials and the promos in the 2025 Super Bowl, what percentage do you think were voiced by men? Do you think it was A, 53%, B, 47%, or C, 85%?
85%.
Oh! Wait, where's my button? I have this button here. Hold on. Let me make sure it's on. You are right. You are right. Now tell me why. Tell me why it was an instant no-brainer for you. And I think this is important because you work for ESPN, because you live this. You do play-by-play. I'm curious to hear why that was an instant for you.
Because there is a comfort in hearing a man's voice. That's what was always done. So that's what we're going to always do. And there's no need to change it. I believe that's the thought process. I can't tell you though how many times I hear a woman come on and there's like this comforting voice about what's happening. Like there is something that puts me at ease when I hear a woman's voice. It's calming, it's soothing, it's comforting in a different way. And I think that women have this great diversity where we can be both that and assertive and authoritative and powerful in our messaging through our voice. We have that dynamism of voice where we can incorporate all of those things. But it's been done this way and it's worked this way. So why change it? The old guard feels comfortable.
Thank you, Tiffany Greene. That was stated lovely. Thank you. All right, last question. I ask every single podcast guest this question.
Oh boy.
I want you to describe what your door to success looks like. So I take stories of people describing what their door to success looks like. I partner with artists. I give them their story, and then I have the artist create their story visually in whatever medium they work in. And so I'm curious to know, if you were to walk up to your door to success, what does it look like? Is it bedazzled? Is it a barn door? Is it a gym door? And when you open it, what's inside? Who is there? How do you feel?
I would have to say it's kind of like a combination of a gym, like a basketball gym and like a workout gym, right? Because we talked about the pumping of the muscle, right? And just constantly working and gaining traction over and over again, just doing those things over and over again. So it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, right?
Mm.
And you may be with me or you may not be with me shooting in the gym, right? As Drake once said, but I'm putting up shots, right? I'm putting in the work. And over time, that door from the gym to the arena leads into brighter lights, bigger
Oh,
stage, greater platform. And a greater just sense of responsibility, that if that door is open, right, I need to have like 20 dozen more doors open behind me so that others can run through it, right?
oh,
And run
that's
through it with no
beautiful.
problem. Run through it with no
Beautiful.
problem, because if I've opened that door, now hopefully it makes it easier for every young man and young woman who aspires to be in broadcasting that much easier. That I've helped pave a way for those doors to just be already open, and then they go ahead and bust through some new ones.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Tiffany Greene, this conversation has reminded me why I liked you so much when I first met you. You are just one of those people that I think your friends and family benefit from speaking to you on a regular basis. You walk away from a conversation with you feeling uplifted,
Thank
centered,
you.
and more empowered, right? Like,
Thank you.
you are an example of a woman standing in her grace
Mhm.
and you're a powerhouse, Tiffany Greene, and I can't wait to continue to hear you and see you on TV. And I thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with the Building Doors community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate you having me. And let's knock down more doors.
That's right. So if you like what you heard today, or on any of our episodes, I encourage you to go to buymeacoffee.com/buildingdoorsvo and support our efforts. And until then, let's build some more doors together. Thanks for listening to the Building Doors podcast. Want to hear more? Check out all our episodes at buildingdoorsvo.com/podcast. And follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Building Doors VO. We'd love to hear from you. So call us on our 24/7 hotline at 216-307-1917 and leave us a voicemail with your thoughts. Do you want to support the podcast? Well, we love coffee. Buy us a cup through the link in the description or at buildingdoorsvo.com. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep speaking up, and let's keep building doors together.